Unless you've been living under a rock with noise-canceling headphones and blindfolds on, then I'm certain you've heard of the internet's new favorite game, Helldivers 2. For those who have been living like Patrick about to engage in some BDSM, I'll quickly summarize this marvel. It's just the movie Star Troopers, but with Team Killed enabled. Perfect. It's awesome. But the reason this game is so much fun is because of how crazy it gets on the harder difficulties. It gets insane. The game wants you to lose. That's what makes it fun, and I'm going to try to beat an entire match solo on the hardest difficulty without doing any damage or killing any enemies. To show y'all the skill curve between difficulty easy and the hardest difficulty Helldiver, me and my friend hopped into a match on the former. Most of it was us just around. Yeah, the stratagems look like overkill on this level, but there is a reason the game gives you the ability to unload a metric ton of explosives on what is the equivalent of some large house spiders. After disappointing my kindergarten teacher by failing to put in the right shapes not once, but twice, Travis gracefully puts me out of my misery and takes over so we can finish the mission. Anyways, you get it. On easy, it's just some small bugs, no biggie. So here's a match on the hardest difficulty. Yeah, the amount of enemies go through the roof, but more importantly, the enemy types change. Instead of just some small bugs, we now have every single type, from specialized ones like the invisible and speedy stalkers to giant ones like the Bile Titan, which is why the game lets you use nukes. You need to call in your own Hiroshima every few minutes. Without it, you'll just die. A bunch of enemies instant kill you or put you in near-death state with every attack, and you have to somehow manage fighting all of these guys while completing an objective and extracting in order to successfully finish the mission. We were able to do it here, or at least I was, but that's because we were using every single piece of firepower we had at our disposal, and there's 4 of us. But in this challenge, I won't get to do any of that. Before I start, let me tell you the rules. No shooting, no meleeing, no lethal grenades, no stratagems that do any sort of physical damage, and I must complete the objective and extract all by myself. I can use non-lethal grenades like the smoke or stun, and more importantly, I can use non-damaging stratagems. Stratagems can be massive explosive barrages equivalent to what your chocolate starfish does to your toilet after a night of binging Crunchwrap Supremes, or they can be things like a resupply or a backpack that gives you a little portable shield. So as long as it's one that can't actually damage enemies or kill enemies, I can use it. Before jumping into the match on the hardest difficulty Helldiver, I want to try to beat the challenge on the difficulty 2 below it, Suicide. Kinda like practice. For the challenge, not like I'm practicing committing suicide. That came out wrong. You don't need much practice for something like that anyways. You just gotta jump off something high enough, you know? Difficulty 7, 8, 9 are similar in that they have most of the same enemy type spawning. The main differences between the two are the amount of enemies. Difficulty 9 will have a lot more of the big guys, and operation modifiers, which are passive debuffs applied to you. Usually the debuff is something like stratagems take twice as long to recharge or deploy, something like that. There will be a decent skill curve between 7 to 9, but the overall gameplay will be similar, just easier on 7, making it a perfect place for me to practice. Now, those of you who have played this game know that some of the objectives, like destroying eggs, require you to do damage. That means for this challenge, I can't pretend I'm shooting the ovaries of a very large orange woman and need to complete missions that have objectives that don't require me to do any sort of damage directly. There are only a few like that. Upload escape pod data, spread democracy, activate E710 pumps, conduct geological surveys, retrieve valuable data, emergency evacuation, and launch an ICBM. Upload escape pod data and spread democracy missions don't seem to spawn in higher difficulties, so I won't be doing those. Hi, Chris from the future. Just want to come here and pause for a second. When I wrote and recorded the script, it was a while ago, and I'm just finishing the video now, so some of the information is outdated because they have patched the game a little bit here and there. Okay, so don't yell at me in the comments, all right? Because I'm weak and I can't take it. I'm very sensitive. Please don't yell at me. I am a big old pussy. Both the E710 missions will most likely have a section where I need to shoot a terminid growth to access part of an objective, so I can't do those either. And although you technically don't have to kill any of the enemies in an emergency evacuation mission, I still don't think it's possible without killing the hordes of bugs that would pick off the people you're supposed to escort, making it impossible for the challenge. That leaves me with just 3 mission types I can do: geological survey, retrieve data, and launch an ICBM. Okay, yeah, in the launch ICBM missions, you launch a massive nuke at the end, but it doesn't land on your map, so it won't do any damage to the enemies. It does do this cool-ass nuke animation off map, which reminds me of that one scene in Terminator where all those kids get turned into dust. Love that scene. Anyways, to complete any of these objectives, I'll need to do the sub-objectives first. Typically, the harder difficulty, the more sub-objectives you'll have to do, usually between 2 or 3. Like this mission has 2 sub-objectives I'll have to do first before I can do the main mission.
I have been helping chat alpha males for the last 5 years find their ideal submissive partners anywhere you want to. The grocery store.
I always try to spawn near one of the objectives just slightly away so I can call my backpack without being attacked. Speaking of my backpack, Let me explain to you all my stratagem loadout. First, obviously the shield backpack. It allows me to tank some hits without taking any damage, so super useful. The EMS mortar sentry, like the mortar sentry, but it only stuns enemies, it won't do any damage, just slow them down. Sentries in this challenge, and for stealth in general, are great, because they have the added benefit of attracting enemies to their position. So even though my sentry gets destroyed pretty quick here, it was still able to draw a bunch of enemies away from the objective, which is a huge plus. I also have the orbital smoke strike. It lays down a huge area of smoke where marked. It's supposed to obscure enemy view, allowing me to move through any area without getting shot. Unfortunately, the bugs only do close range damage, so even if I lay a trail of smoke between me and some of these creepy crawlers, they will just walk through it to where they last saw me. Still, it's good for breaking line of sight and entering stealth faster. Plus, there really wasn't anything else I could use, so I might as well take it. And my last stratagem is the EMS orbital strike. Basically, the only reason this challenge is possible. It's a very strong and large stun effect that comes from the ship, but it can only use it once every 75 seconds. The reason this thing is OP for the challenge is because of how it works. It's not a normal stun effect. It actually creates a static field that slows anything that enters it, including myself, to a halt, and this field stays up for like 20 seconds. Now, like I said, it does slow me down too, so it's not the best, but I can still dive at a normal speed. So I can just traverse like that while in the static field. And the best part about it, it doesn't affect you interacting with objectives. I can use terminals like normal while stunned in the static field. So when I played my warm-up matches on the easier difficulties, I created this ingenious 5-head strat of just throwing one of these bad boys on the terminal I need to access, then diving over and using it until the stun wears off. It's stupid, it's clunky, and doesn't stop the horde of bugs from continuously calling in more and more bug breaches, but it works, and that's all that matters. After running around this objective like 5 times and almost dying a bunch more, I was able to wait for my stun to recharge and access the terminal enough to finish the first sub-objective. Time to book it to the next one, and I mean book it. Like Trevor Phillips, speed is my friend. If I can't kill the enemies that were just at the objective with me, then I need to get far enough away from them that they lose sight of me. Otherwise, I'm going to have a massive amount of bugs follow me the whole match. Thankfully, this is something else I prepped for with the armor I chose. The SC30 Trailblazer. This is the weakest armor in the game with a health rating of just 50, but it is by far the fastest, and this combined with the stamina booster, which I also took with me, ensured I can outrun everything. Well, almost everything. Yeah, having 50 health does suck, but that's what the shield backpack is for. Running these together gives me invulnerability up to a decent amount of damage and max speed. So if something does break my shield, which happens a lot, I'll still be fast enough to clear some distance, ensuring it recharges before I die. Or at least that's the plan. The only other things in my loadout are my weapons and my grenades. My weapons don't really matter because I'm not using them, but just in case, I equipped the machine pistol sidearm and set it to semi-auto, so if I did accidentally shoot, it wouldn't kill anything. My grenades are also useless this match. Even though the smoke and stun grenades do exist, at the time of filming this match, I hadn't unlocked them yet, so the normal grenades I had with me can't be used. Arriving at the next objective with a charge on my ass, I quickly came to terms with the fact that this will be my first death because of the stalkers. Stalkers are the fastest enemy type in the game, way faster than you, even running a build with max speed. They are adept hunters that will chase you down relentlessly, won't lose sight of you no matter what you do, and they do enough damage to kill you within 2 seconds of being in striking range. My backpack saved me here, and they would have just followed me to finish me off like a hooker who's really dedicated to performing their job to completion, but they got cut off by some smaller enemies that ran in front of them. The only good thing about stalkers is their behavior. They're ambush attackers, so they'll wait in the back for the right moment to strike, meaning sometimes you'll see their invisible outline hanging out in the back of a horde. If they didn't do this and they just endlessly pursued you, then they would be so good at killing Helldivers they would need to be removed for the game for balancing. And that's saying something because this game is designed to be heavily slanted to the enemies in the harder difficulties. Hell man, every patch they make for this game seems to be like 10 buffs for the enemies, 5 debuffs to your weapons, and maybe 1 buff for the Helldivers. I made enough distance from the stalkers that I could throw an EMS at the terminal, although one stalker did almost kill me as I did that. I was able to heal up and do 2 out of 4 terminal steps before the stun wore off. Unfortunately, as I did it, one of the bugs called in a bug breach right on top of me, so I need to get the hell out of there and fast. I ran down the hills, I found a rock parkour to get around the fence and into an open area, but when I looked back, the bugs just instantly broke down the fence and a charger was about to turn me into paste. I thought I was done here when a tremor started. One of the main big updates they did a few weeks after the game's launch was adding environmental hazards. Each planet will have a specific environmental hazard that will trigger randomly throughout the match. On some planets, it's meteor strikes that kill anything it hits on impact, bugs, or Helldivers, and on other maps, it's fire tornadoes. But I chose this planet for the mission because its environmental hazard is heavily favored to me for this challenge. Every once in a while, there'll be tremors that cause the ground to shake and will stop anything from running. And it does slow me, but it completely stops the bugs. So during that period of time, I can get away. And sometimes, like here, it comes in at the perfect time. Out of heals, I need to throw down another resupply before getting back to the terminal. I almost died from the stalkers, but I used my last heal at the right time. Healing this game works in a really interesting way. Instead of a slow heal over time or an instant heal, it's a near instant heal that continuously heals you to your maximum health for 5 seconds. So that whole time you see this blue tint around my screen, that means the healing effect is active. Any damage I take while it's up will be functionally ignored. Now, I said near instant because there is a very small delay from when you put the needle into your veins to when it activates. And it's such a short delay that it's basically instant, but when your health is low, like it is here, that delay can end up killing you. That was my first death, and the stalker made sure to rub in my face by gangbanging my corpse. I have 4 more lives left, so I just respawned, but I dropped my backpack where I died, so until I get that back, I'm gonna die a lot faster. When respawning, I chose to get as close as I could to the terminal so I can throw down an EMS strike and finish the objective. Thankfully, I did just that. Well, after getting my shapes wrong again. The last step of this objective requires me to carry this SSD across the map to the main objective. While carrying the SSD, I can't use any stratagems or heal. So when I decided to check the map to see where I had to go and got hit, healing made me drop the SSD. It got chaotic real quick and I was again turned into mincemeat. Respawned nearby and deployed a sentry and a new backpack. Made sure I threw them opposite directions so the sentry could draw some of the bugs away from me, and I threw the backpack in the direction of the SSD I dropped. Quickly got it on, threw out an EMS on the SSD, picked it up as the stun went off, and started making my way to the objective again. This whole play worked and was very chaotic, but it might have been the fatal mistake of the match. I honestly don't even think I had much of a choice because I needed to get the SSD, but that first death while carrying the SSD allowed all the bugs to catch up to me, and doubling back to grab it on the floor condensed them even more. Because of this, I wasn't able to shake them off, and I have a huge horde of bugs following me. All the ones that spawned at the last objective, plus more that spawned while running there. I can't do shit about them now because they're all near the next objective, so I just gotta hope the overwhelming force of them isn't too much. I have 3 lives. I can do this. I can do this. I mean, yeah, what he said. I got 3 lives left. I can do this. Unless, you know, the game glitches out after I drop the SSD doing an emergency heal, making my diver give the demon from the Paranormal Activity movies a big old bear hug and stopping me from healing again, leading to both my death and a wonderful uphill tumble roll. You know, that's actually a pretty hard move to do. 8 out of 10. 2 lives left. As long as I didn't have the worst luck possible for this spawn, I should be good. That's sarcasm, because I did get the worst RNG possible here. It threw me down in the middle of the horde that was following me. I had no choice but to use every stratagem available, and even with that, it would take a miracle to get out of here alive, and I got a miracle. Another tremor started, letting me get more distance between the bugs and live. Maybe this was the game's way of apologizing for screwing me over with that glitch 20 seconds ago, but probably not, seeing as the glitch happens again in a minute. Spoiler. I tried entering stealth to see if I could lose the bugs, but the stalkers didn't lose sight of me like everyone else. I started booking into the objective, threw a sentry down hoping to get them off my trail, but it didn't, and without a shield backpack, the 2 stalkers chasing me meant certain death. After I used my last heal, I don't think there's ever been a moment in my life where my asshole's more clenched than it was here. I swear you couldn't use vibranium-coated tongs to crack that thing open. I was able to live because I kept cutting corners, putting breakable objects in the path of the stalkers. This didn't stop them, only slowed them down for like half a second at most, but it was enough that they wouldn't kill me. Turned on the terminal before narrowly escaping death with a dive, made it to the previously dropped resupply for more heals, got the SSD and headed to my drop backpack for the shield, but as I picked it up, the bastard from the Paranormal Activity movies came back for another hug and I was glitched again. I also dropped the SSD when I grabbed my backpack, so now I have to double back to where I dropped it while I was glitched like this, and with the stalkers on my ass, they quickly depleted my shield and I was back to no heals. I used the uneven terrain to my advantage, and I think my weird pathing got the stalkers a little confused, and because of this, I was able to make it to the SSD. Threw down a smoke screen, picked up the SSD, and I was unglitched. I felt good doing that successfully, but I had 0 heals now, and a horde of bugs, including some stalkers, were coming down from the hill I needed to go up. It didn't take long till it was overrun. 1 life left. The game dropped me in the middle of the horde again, looped around to grab some more heals. I tried preemptively throwing the stun effect on my dropped items, but I got overwhelmed, and while making my way there, I was killed. I'm now on my last life. Kind of. The way lives work in this game is interesting. You get a limited amount of reinforcements, and once you're out of them, you need to wait 2 minutes till you get another. Meaning I need to stay alive for that cooldown period. If I die before then, game over. I was able to spawn myself at a good position and ran from anything nearby, so no immediate danger this time. Can't call down a new backpack because the cooldown for that is ridiculously long, so I'm very vulnerable right now unless I want to risk getting my old one, which I don't when I have 0 lives left. Looped around to the back entrance of the objective, threw down a sentry, and went to interact with the terminal, but the next step requires me to first put in the SSD, so I started making my way there. Luckily, my sentry, which was hard at work stunning the enemies nearby, drew a bunch of the enemies away from where I last died, including the stalkers, so I was able to run down, grab my backpack, and then grab my SSD. I cannot understate how useful sentries are as a distraction. They are like the best, especially for solo games. I would have died here otherwise and lost the game. As I was running to plug in the SSD, my reinforcements finished cooling down, so if I died now, it's not game over. As I put in the SSD, a bug breach spawned, and I just ran. I need to do the main objective in that terminal, but there's no shame in dipping for a minute to loop the enemies away. Plus my EMS strike was still cooling down, so this allowed me to get the enemies away from the terminal and wait for that to cool down at the same time. A minute later I got back to the terminal, stunned myself, entered code quick, and while it was loading, I threw down a backpack near the objective in case I died again and needed the extra one. I had to dip before I could do another step on the terminal, but I did spawn a sentry before I left to help me out. Yeah, so here I realize what the next step is. I need to readjust the satellite dish and then confirm it on the terminal. Usually a two-person job, but much like beating off, I need to do this myself. After almost dying again because I ragdolled into this tiny gap, I made it to the terminal to see I had to do a full 180 turn on the dish. Literally, the maximum amount I could turn it is what I had to do. Great. I threw down a stun and started turning, and I was pretty sure I was gonna die, but the stun is so good that it let me do it in one try. Did another loop around, but when I got back to the terminal, there was a bug breach going on right next to it. I should have just ran away and waited for my stun to be back up, but I got greedy. I did complete the next terminal step. It just cost me my life. Respawn on some rocks nearby. Remember, every time I die now, I must wait 2 minutes before I get another life back, or else it's game over. I dropped a sentry right behind me. This was bad placement. I should have definitely thrown it further away from me. Was hoping the bugs wouldn't know where I was for a little bit, but forgot that they would come investigate the noise of my hell pod landing. You know, like this hunter, I wasn't sure if he saw me.
You see me?
Yeah, he did see me. Started running and went past my sentry so the bugs would get distracted destroying it. I was really worried here because the hunters could catch up to me, and if they did, I was dead. I had one heal left and I had to use it when I got cut off by a hunter. I was convinced this was the end. I couldn't risk saving my EMS for the terminal, so I just threw down a resupply from her heals, and then I hid in a bush. I don't know why I hid in a bush. I really didn't need to because all the bugs were stunned, but whatever. In the meantime, I marked down my drop backpack so I could pick it up as soon as possible, grabbed some heals once they landed, and while running to my drop backpack, my low IQ ass ran straight past the extra one I threw down a few minutes ago. Realized there was no bugs around, so I decided to quickly put in the last code, and I finished the objective. Grabbed my backpack and headed to extraction. I couldn't believe I did it without losing.
Fuck yeah.
I mean, I still need to leave the planet though, so I didn't really do it yet. But still, I got the main objective done, which is the main part of the challenge. This still isn't even the hardest difficulty though, and I got lucky here with no Bile Titans or Acid Spitter spawning. Threw down some stratagems to help lose the bugs following me, and then I entered stealth a little ways from the extraction where I had to make a crucial decision.
But here's the question. Do I literally just chill here for 11 minutes?
The 11 minutes I'm referring to are the 11 minutes left on the game clock. Maybe if I was a better streamer, I would have realized I needed to move my camera so you can actually see the game clock, but you know. So each long match is 40 minutes long, with a timer in the top right corner of the screen. The faster you complete the mission, the more cash and XP you make after extraction. Well, what happens if you stay past the game timer? The game locks you out of any uncompleted main objectives and automatically starts the 2-minute extraction process. But if you're in a position like me, where you already completed the main objective, there's no penalty to waiting out the game timer. The game won't consider it a failed mission if I extract after the game timer ends and the main objective is already done. I just won't get any of that bonus XP and cash. Okay, so cool, I could do that, but why would I want to do that instead of just starting the extraction process normally? Extracting causes a lot of enemies to spawn in your position, effectively becoming a defend or outlast mission for 2 minutes, because once the extraction process is started, I need to stay within a close proximity of the landing zone, or else the extraction will be aborted and I'll have to start the 2-minute timer over. But if I run out the game clock and do the automatic extraction, you aren't required to stay within a confined area, meaning I could be on the other side of the map when the auto extraction process starts. This difference is huge on harder difficulties where extracting gets crazy, but especially on a run where I can't kill anything. The only reason I was able to do the objective was because I could run away and come back after leading some of the enemies somewhere else. So letting the automatic extraction happen means I can wait until the shuttle is close to landing before I even start to head near the extraction, ensuring I don't have a horde of enemies in a confined space. Okay, so that seems like a no-brainer, even on a normal run of the game. Why not just stay a little longer and loot some more, do whatever else, and then once the game timer is done, you get like an easier extraction process? Well, there are two downsides to this strat. One, you have to live to the end of the match in the first place, something I'm already struggling to do. So choosing to stay here for another 11 minutes means I have to survive for another 11 minutes, which is no small feat. And the second downside, and definitely the worst one, you lose access to all stratagems once the game timer runs out. The game timer is actually supposed to be the allotted time your destroyer ship can stay in low orbit. So once the game timer is done, the ship has to return to space. Yeah, the extraction shuttle can still come get you and bring you to your destroyer ship in space, but because all your stratagems come from the destroyer ship, you lose access to all of them. Not just the personal stratagems you brought with you, like an EMS strike or a sentry. You also lose access to all the generic stratagems, like a resupplying, or more importantly, reinforcements. If I choose to do the automatic extraction, the extraction process itself will be a lot easier, but it is a massive gamble because once the game timer is done, I can no longer respawn. It doesn't matter how many reinforcements I have saved up, they will all be gone. Before I could make a decision on what I wanted to do, a hunter caught me in stealth and called in a bug bug breach. Now that I was caught, I thought, fuck it, I'll try to extract, and if it gets too crazy and I die, I'll just abort it and do the automatic extraction later. I had a reinforcement stockpiled anyways. But on my way there, I saw 2 stalkers near the extraction beacon, so I had to dip. I got the decision made for me again. Looks like I'm waiting it out.
Oh, Chris, they're just some stalkers. Just avoid them for like 2 minutes. Like, come on, it's easy.
No, man, I can't. I couldn't even avoid them here. They killed me. It was only 2 of them, and they killed me. This is also the second time I died this match while healing. I was a little mad. On the bright side, I had the luckiest spawn. I landed on a large rock high enough that the enemies couldn't see me, and I immediately threw down some stratagems like my mortar so the enemies wouldn't come investigate my held pod drop and would go investigate the other held pods that dropped, allowing me to stay in stealth. And it worked. But holy fuck, that's an insane amount of enemies. Some stalkers went up behind me. I don't know how, but they seem to know where I am when no one else does. Thankfully, they gave up and left me alone instead of trying to get up here. The rest of the enemies soon disperse, and I have to make this clear, they didn't despawn. All those you saw a minute ago are still alive and nearby. They just aren't all grouped together and aren't swarmed around me right now. Just 6 minutes left in the game timer, I chose to wait it out. Every once in a while, a stalker would come up to the rock and kind of stare at me while doing it, so I think they knew where I was, but they couldn't get me and didn't alert other enemies, so I was safe. I waited. Kind of chilled, even spaced out a little bit and jumped when tremors started up again. Looked around while it was going on, and that's when I saw it. The first Bile Titan of the challenge, and it was headed right for me. Like, right for me. It pathed directly to me. I don't think it knew where I was, to be honest. It just happened to literally step on me, though. Before I could do anything, I panicked and slid right into its acid spit, instantly killing me. 2 minutes had gone by since my last death, so I did have another life left, but my cover was broken. And all those bugs you saw a moment ago, plus the Bile Titan, are gonna be on my ass. Dropped in on some fresh charger corpses and my backpack. Don't worry, I'll explain those in a second. Grabbed my backpack and I just ran. I didn't know what else to do. I thought maybe I could try calling extraction, at least that way I could attempt to leave while I still had access to my stratagems, but while running there, I knew this run was soon to be over. At the extraction with stalkers and a Bile Titan right behind me meant I could not call it in without dying, so I just had to keep running. Changing my game plan once again back to waiting out the timer. I kept running, but the stalkers easily caught up to me and broke my shield. I healed just in time though. Literally half a second later and I would have died and lost the match. The EMS strike I called in let me get some distance between them, and my reinforcement budget increased again, giving me another life. The Bile Titan is a huge problem for me because it has almost the same speed as the stalkers, but it also has the ability to attack me from range, so I need to avoid it at all costs. Tremors started letting me clear some distance again, but the stalkers just closed it the second they could move again. With under 2 minutes left on the game timer, I was just doing laps around the extraction area trying to survive, hoping I could make it. I ran out of heals at 1:30 left, and shortly after, I died. I respawned, and this is my final life. The destroyer will leave orbit before I get more reinforcements. I landed on a high rock again, trying to do the same thing I did last time, but I missed the rock's plateau and ended up being in full sight of all these bugs. I was trying to think of a plan, but before I could do anything, the hunter started jumping up to me and hacking away at my legs. I died before I even had the chance to run. I was very, very, very mad.
I'm filled with a burning rage. A burning rage.
Not only did I not finish the match, but this wasn't even the hardest difficulty yet. So how the hell was I gonna do it on Helldiver? I decided to end stream here and not try the challenge again until I grinded out a bunch more. Oh right, yeah, I forgot to explain all those dead charges. So I actually failed that run like 5 minutes before I died there at the end. I didn't want to say it because I wanted you, the viewer, to feel as intense as I did at the end with me trying to escape, because I was still really trying to beat the challenge. I just knew I wasn't going to count that match because of what happened. So at the time of filming this attempt, the game was adding a new stratagem, Mech, and as a reward to all players, everyone got access to it as a stratagem on every match for a few days. So you would have your generic stratagems, your personal 4, and then this bonus one. After landing on the rock, I started throwing stratagems to get the bugs' attention away from me, and I decided to try throwing the mech too to see if the bugs would go investigate it like they did the other stratagems. But the mech gets dropped off by a friendly ship, not dropped off via Hellpod, and the ship that drops off the mech has a very strong cannon on it. So I accidentally killed these chargers and some other bugs when I called in the mech, failing that attempt. Yeah, it wasn't me who did the damage, technically it was an NPC, but I still count this as my stratagem doing the damage and killing enemies, which is against the rules. I guess it worked out in the end anyways, because regardless, I would have to retry the challenge on suicide. 4 days later, I came back to the stream after a lot of grinding.
It's been a few days, and I've been grinding real hard, boys. Grinding my heart out, alright? What I mean by that is I'm addicted to this game and I've been playing it a lot.
Yeah, this game is so much fun, man. Goddamn. But I had watched some YouTube videos on the game's mechanics and upgraded my gear, giving me more of an advantage for this challenge. Actually, I even spent the first 2 hours of this stream grinding like I was listening to Genuine's Pony. was trying to get enough metal so I could purchase stun grenades. I didn't end up making enough in the end, but shout out Sharif for watching me grind mindlessly for a bit.
Yeah, you can be in a YouTube video. I mean, you're like the only person who's been chatting so far.
If you have multiple hours in the day you want to waste watching me do stupid challenges or grinding just like Sharif did, follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/crispy645. Sometimes the streams are fun. Like I said, I did unlock the stun grenades, but I did, however, unlock the smoke grenades off screen. And now I can use grenades during matches. Definitely a big help because I can deploy them at will and don't have to wait for a cooldown like the smoke stratagems. Now the smoke from the snow grenades is nowhere near as big as the smoke from the smoke stratagem, but it's still better than nothing. Started the challenge up again and began my second attempt at suicide. Sorry, I meant on suicide. Like the difficulty, like I said before, you just gotta jump somewhere high. It's not gonna take you 2 tries, guys. Seriously, just follow my patented method. Go high, go by. Unlike last time, I was way more strategic with my map choice. First, I picked the planet that had the most favorable conditions. Yes, the other planet was pretty good as tremors wouldn't kill me and often saved my life, but that planet also had the high temperature condition, which increased my stamina drain rate. It's the reason I struggled to outrun enemies like the hunters last match. So for this match, I chose this planet, which had no environmental event, so I didn't have to worry about falling rocks that could instant kill me or anything like that, and its condition, extreme cold, only affects the fire rate of weapons, something that doesn't apply to me for this challenge. So choosing to do the missions here meant I would get an increased stamina boost compared to the last match with no other downside. Like I had just done at Enema, I was trying to be more anal about the map I chose, making sure it was one that had objectives closer together and one that wasn't too obstructed by bodies of water. This ICBM mission seemed perfect, so I chose that. My loadout was the same with the exception of the smoke strike. I changed it from the orbital smoke strike to the eagle smoke strike. Basically the same thing. The eagle I can use more frequently, but it has a smaller area of effect. My plan of attack was a lot different here. I decided I'd try to do as much as I could at one objective, and then when I started to get overwhelmed, I would run to the next one and do the same there, and hope that by the time I got back to the first, the enemies would have dispersed in some way. Start off by tossing a sentry away from the objective to lure enemies out. Unfortunately, one enemy that didn't get lured out was this big ass charger.
Hey guys, how you doing?
All I was able to do for now was turn on the terminal. Yeah, the charger was slowed, but being right next to the terminal made it physically impossible for me to access it. And even while slowed, chargers can instant kill me with one of their attacks, so I didn't want to risk it with it that close to me. While I was diving away, you might have seen this big green bug that wasn't around last match. That's an acid spitter. Some planets don't spawn certain bugs, and I was hoping this planet wouldn't spawn these guys like the last one, but it did. The acid spitters create a big problem for me. They have 2 main attacks. One is getting kind of close and then spitting acid at me. This is basically an instant kill, so I need to make sure I'm never stationary when one is close to me. And the other attack is kind of like an acid mortar strike. They point their voluptuous green ass to the sky and push out a big blob of acid out at an incredible height, giving this attack massive range. This is also an attack that can instant kill me. Now, enemies that can kill me quick aren't new, but what is new is an enemy that can attack me from a far enough range that it can be outside the effect of my EMS strike. When I throw down a strike at a terminal to complete some objectives, enemies that melee me won't be able to do damage because in order to melee me, they will have to step into the field and get slowed. But the acid spitters might be out of that range, and because of that, they might be able to kill me, nullifying the one thing I had at my disposal, making this challenge possible in the first place. Whatever, I just gotta hope that it doesn't happen, but it probably will. While I was running to the second sub-objective, I found the radar station. This is a side objective, not something that I need to do, but if I can get it done, then I'll have the entire map revealed to me, which might be useful. It's a pretty easy process, especially if I just start it and go do something else while it raises the radar dish. The second sub-objective, which I just arrived at, is finding the launch codes for the ICBM. It's super easy, I just need to find the dead guy that dropped them. I ran around for a bit and eventually I found him up top. With that done, I just need to head back to the first sub-objective. On my way back, I passed by the radar dish again, and with the dish raised, I just need to realign it and activate the tower. Got blessed by the RNG gods because it was already aligned properly and didn't need to be moved, meaning all I had to do was hit one arrow key and all points of interest were revealed to me. This was super useful because it showed me where the stalker layer was, meaning I could now plan to avoid it, making sure I don't run into any of those annoying fucks this attempt. Unlike other bugs, stalkers are so OP that the game made it that they spawn only out of these stalker layers, and you can stop them from spawning if you destroy the stalker layer if you can find out where it is, but you know, I can't do that for this challenge. So if I can't destroy a stalker layer, the best way to make sure that they don't spawn is to stay away from the stalker layers so none of them get a chance to even see me in the first place. Back at the first objective, I tried to plan out a stealthy approach, but threw down the wrong stratagem, stunning myself. Nice. Tossed a sentry on a nearby hill, threw smoke while running in, and decided I was going to throw a resupply in my way so I can fill up on heals after accessing the terminal. Unfortunately, I banked my throw off the ground, off the power generator, and into my shield bubble. Panicked and ran from the objective instead of doing it because I had no idea what was going on.
Is the resupply gonna land on me?
Yes, it was. Respawned, grabbed my stuff, and ran to the terminal. Entered the code, but got instant killed by the charger. So like 2 deaths in 1 minute. It's not like too bad. I still got 3 lives left and I had a real good start, but there's a lot of enemies here. A lot. Waited on the hill a bit so they would move from the objective, looped around, and somehow was clear. Did a step in the terminal, and before doing the next one, I wanted to grab my backpack on the floor in case I had to dip halfway through it. I had just used the EMS strike, so I had to dive to my backpack and then dive back to the terminal. Doing so, I somehow managed to get myself stuck. It's like one of those pornos where the stepsister gets stuck in the washing machine or whatever. Nothing I could do but stay and take the pounding. I mean, I guess I could have tried to enjoy it. Respawned, threw down a new backpack because I didn't want to risk getting stuck grabbing the old one, and made my way back to the terminal. There was a lot of bugs here, but I had an EMS strike ready to go, so I thought I would be good, but I wasn't. Here, I'll play the full clip and then I'll explain what happened.
They're supposed to be stunned, man. I just threw a stun grenade.
Past Chris is right, although very whiny about it.
Threw the fucking stun shit. Come on.
They should be stunned. I threw an EMS on them, so what the hell happened? Well, if you slow down the clip, you can see that it actually did go off, but it missed and landed on top of the power generator, not close enough to stun any of the bugs. See, orbital strikes, no matter which kind, actually have a predetermined origin, your destroyer ship, that always hovers above the center of the map. So the strike isn't coming down from a straight line, it's coming from the center of the map. And the further you are from the center, the steeper the angle it flies in at, meaning you need to be more aware of where you throw your strikes when you're near the edge of the map like I am here. If I threw this a little bit further from the terminal, it would have cleared the power generator like it did every other time I used it this match. Anyways, now you know why sometimes your orbital strikes completely miss their targets and just like land halfway up a mountain or something. It wasn't in your head or anything like that. There was actually an explanation. Don't worry, you're not a schizo.
He's lying, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm underneath your skin and I am never going out.
With 1 life left and a bug breach happening right next to the objective, I decided to do some laps to spread out the bugs. And by the time it was clear, my EMS strike was back up, so I threw it down at an angle that would work this time and got that step of the terminal done. But now I had to try to make it through all those bugs that were converging on my position.
I'm fucked.
Yeah, I called it before it even happened this time. Once I get swarmed, it's near impossible to get out of it because I'll be poisoned by some of the bug's attacks, slowing me down. My only hope to living after that happens is a mix of diving away and healing up, but if I run out of heals, I'm done. Officially out of lives now, so if I die I need to survive for 2 minutes or else I will lose the match. Had a split second where I thought about embracing my forthcoming death early and tried to give the spitter a hug. But it was actually me hitting the emote button instead of healing because they're right next to each other on the keyboard and I'm pretty ass at video games. Grabbed some heals on my way out of the area and started a loop. All I needed to do was interact with the switch on the transformer and I was done this sub-objective. Was going to try and quickly make a run for it here when one of the acid spitter's mortar attacks threw me in the opposite direction. I needed a new plan.
Gonna try something stupid.
I mean, every plan I make seems to be stupid, so no need to announce it. I tossed that sentry right next to the objective and basically on the horde chasing me, hoping it would distract enough of them that they wouldn't cross over to me on the other side. Grabbed my backpack on the way and threw another EMS strike down right as I got to the switch. The EMS completely missed, but it worked out anyways because I was then able to dive through it so any of the bugs chasing me would now get ensnared in its stun effect, giving me the perfect opportunity to escape from this fest. With that, the last sub-objective is done and I started running to the main objective. And I can't stop because the bugs are right on my ass. Did this really cool juke on a hunter when I hopped over a resupply, and after that and some constant running, I was in the clear. Unlike last match, my stamina stats are high enough that I can outrun a horde easily and then enter stealth again. Also, no stalkers being around is really useful. Snuck up to the main objective terminal, got caught, but I was able to turn it on and input the first code before running away as a bug breach started. Was surprised the sentry I threw moments before was still up because it was being attacked by bugs since it landed, but I shouldn't have been surprised seeing that the sentry was one of the things I buffed since my last stream. I actually grinded out and got 2 new ship modules that passively buffed the sentry. Shock Absorption Gel, which gives my sentries 50% more ammo, and Advanced Construction, which gives my sentries 50% more health, and why my sentry was still up and shooting bugs. The ammo buff isn't super useful for this run because my sentries have been typically getting destroyed well before they run out of ammo, but the extra health is super useful as my sentries will now be able to lure more enemies for a longer period of time. After looping and getting back to the turbo, I could see the charger waiting for me right next to it. I need to make it move so I can access it without getting instant killed. Somehow I was able to juke it out and break the charger's ankle so bad it fell off this ledge. With it gone, I had the opportunity to throw a stun and enter the launch codes. Just as I finished, the charger made it back up top for its revenge, threw me off the ledge, and then double tapped slapped me on the ground for good measure. It's okay, I had a reinforcement stockpiled, so I wasn't totally screwed yet. Threw down a new backpack, but got cut off by some bugs before I could grab it. Wasn't worth the risk without any reinforcements left. Saw the charger by the terminal again, so I threw a sentry at the platform below, hoping to bait it out. And after seeing it work, I ran into the terminal again. But when I got there, I realized I was at the wrong step. I actually need to be at that platform disarming 4 locks, and I just made the charger go right where I need to be. Cool. Now, on the plus side, I was able to grab my backpack again, somehow got 1 lock down in the chaos, and also got my reinforcements back right after. After 1 big loop around, I got 1 more done before having to dip. I repeated this 1 more time where I was able to get the last 2 down at once. Got back to the terminal and finished that step and then got stuck up here. I didn't know where to go, and every second I wasted trying to make a plan, I was more surrounded. I tried to make a dive over this ridge, but came up short and ended up getting doggy piled. The charger got my revenge for me though and killed the acid spitter that ended me. Something I haven't mentioned before, but yeah, the enemies can team kill each other too, and often do, especially chargers who just plow down whatever's in front of them, and acid spitters that sometimes just vomit on their own. So if you see a corpse on the ground, it's probably because of that. Didn't have a great spawn and almost died. Thankfully the charger knocked me behind a rock, giving me cover from the incoming acid. Healed as much as I could, and I tried to make it my backpack for my last death, but I couldn't find it. Checked the terminal, didn't have time to do the step, but I did read it so I know what I have to do next time I'm around. Kept running, eventually got that extra backpack I threw a while ago but couldn't get at the time, and then just kept running. Yeah, majority of the gameplay is just running away. There's so many enemies spawned in at this point that I have to make larger and larger loops to make sure the objective is somewhat cleared. Got back to the terminal, did the usual, and finished the next step right as I got more reinforcements. Immediately started running away, and while doing so I had to juke a charger, forcing me to double back right into the horde. Dove away as best as I could while healing and thought I was gonna make it, but as I got up to heal again, a charger body checked me into oblivion. Had a bad spawn again, had to use one of my heals almost instantly. I was so disoriented here because I didn't know where I was, but it didn't matter anyways. I just had to put as much distance between me and the mess as possible. The objective is almost done. I just needed to do 1 more step. I was somehow able to enter stealth after a bit of running and spawned a sentry near me and a resupply and a new backpack in the direction I needed to run. Once I got caught again, I was able to grab my supplies while some of the other bugs were held back in the opposite direction by my sacrificial mortar. Got more reinforcements as I reached the terminal, entered the last input, and just booked it. Would have been nice to see the rocket launch up close, but I didn't have any time to spare. Now, right as the rocket went off, you can see I actually get a kill counter on screen. Obviously, I didn't do anything myself, but all the bugs that were next to the rocket as it went off were vaporized, and the game counted this as me killing them. The reason I'm choosing not to count these deaths as a failure is because it's kind of impossible to remove some accidental kills. Even on a match where I didn't have to launch a giant rocket, I would still get a small kill count because of bugs being stupid and killing themselves in the environment, specifically detonating unexploded hell bombs. On the map you can find a few of these scattered around. Normally you can just shoot them, causing them to make a massive explosion, killing anything nearby. I'm not doing that here, but I can't stop the bugs from accidentally setting these off themselves. It's actually already happened once on this match. I was running up this hill when randomly in the distance there's a massive explosion. I don't know why, but some bug just decided to kamikaze himself and took all his friends with him. With that in mind, I chose to ignore any kills counted by bugs that just walk into hazards themselves. It's out of my hands, so the game might count it as my kill, but it really wasn't. Less than 10 minutes left on the clock. I think I'm still blocking the game timer with my cam. Cool, pro streamer here. The only thing left to do is get out, so I started making my way towards the extraction on the other side of the map. Nothing crazy happened here. I was purposely staying away from the bugs, or at least I was, and then I started to get greedy and confident. I was able to loot one of these supply pods, but not the second. It's all good, I had a reinforcement waiting, but again, I lost my backpack, which sucks. With the objectives done, I can now try to stay in stealth for the remainder of the game and hopefully run out the game timer like I was trying to do last match. Unlike last time when I tried to do this, I actually learned a bunch about stealth in this game, mainly from watching this one YouTube video by TD2 where they try to beat a match as Hitman, something that typically requires a lot of stealth, unless you play Hitman like me. In that video, I learned one important thing that saved me during this run. Patrols. Enemies are typically stationed at objectives and won't really move from there unless aggroed. There will be some groups of enemies walking around the map here and there, but if you can see them first, they're easy to avoid. The one that is hard to avoid, and the one that caught me last match and ultimately made me lose, are what TD2 called the Booty Patrol. I don't think that's the actual name for them, but anything with the word booty is good enough for me. Just reminds me of pirates and ass, my 2 favorite things.
Here, use this.
Anyways, the whole patrol is a group of roaming enemies that seem to know where you are and will continuously go to the areas you are in while in stealth. This is something common in a lot of stealth games, where they have some sort of enemy type that knows where you are hiding and will slowly work their way toward you. It works well because it forces the player to move to a new spot or else they'll get caught, keeping the gameplay dynamic and tense. So in that last match, when that hunter came around the corner and spotted me, I thought it was just a random occurrence that fucked me up, but it was actually because I stayed put in the same place for too long and had been tracked down. With this in mind, in order to stay in stealth, I need to make sure I keep moving along or else the crack trackers will hunt me down and probably kill me. kill me. I'm also trying to lead into this armor's perks more, seeming they are stealth perks. Each piece of armor will have some sort of passive perk with up to 2 effects. The armor I'm wearing comes with a scout perk. It gives enemies a 30% lower detection range, letting me stay in stealth way easier. It also gives me the ability to spawn a little radar on the map wherever I drop a marker. So here I'm trying to use the ping ability to see what enemies are near me so I can determine which pathing to take to avoid them. All that is super useful, but it goes at the door when, just like last match, a Bile Titan spawns and starts walking straight towards you. I didn't want to risk getting caught in stealth by that, because by the time it's close enough to spot me in stealth, it's already close enough to instant kill me with its acid. Threw down a new backpack, and as I was waiting, I threw down a sentry in the opposite direction, right next to the bile. Yeah, the sentry is going to get crumpled within seconds of it being out, but that's just enough time for me to make a getaway. As I was running, I realized there was only 2 minutes left on the game timer, and after that, the automatic extraction will start. Knowing I wouldn't have access to my stratagems for much longer, I just started tossing everything I could to lose my pursuers. Threw down my last resupply to fill up on meds before I can't call anything down, and started crouch walking to get back into stealth. It worked, and I was able to get back in stealth by the time I got prone, which was perfect because I was just able to sneak past this patrol. The automatic extraction started, and now I need to wait 2 minutes before I can leave the match. More like 2 minutes and 15 seconds, because there is a brief period of time where you're waiting for the shuttle to actually land. I'm still a little bit away from the extraction point. I'm planning to wait until there's only 30 seconds left on the clock before starting to make my way there. The rocks here gave me great cover, but these 2 minutes felt like the longest 2 minutes of my life. Same thing my girlfriend says to me every night. The shuttle was getting close, so I started scooching my way over, and then booking it once there was only 10 seconds left. I want to time this perfectly so there are no enemies being looped around the landing zone. I got one chance, and if I die here, it's game over. To my luck, there was a horde just waiting for me at the top of this hill, so I went around and remarkably didn't get cut off by any of them and was able to run into the shuttle, beating the mission. I was so happy I flexed my little twig in excitement. You know, something similar got me banned from the local preschool. Listen, that was great, but that wasn't the challenge. I now have to do the same thing, but at a difficulty 2-up, Helldiver.
Why are you say this? This is silly. This is silly and danger.
I wasted no time and just started the run right away while still high off the adrenaline from last match. Found a good map on the same planet, different objective though. This is a retrieve valuable data, and the sub-objectives are next to each other, so I should be able to get those done quick and then just book it to the main objective afterwards. Finally learned how to be a streamer and move my cam down so you can see the game timer and difficulty. Only took me till, you know, like the end of the video. I stealthed my way to the first objective using a sentry to draw some bugs out. Once I got close enough, I threw down an EMS strike and hit the terminal. Couldn't stay too long because all the acid spitters nearby, so I parkoured my ass out of there and headed towards the next objective. Used smokes to get back in stealth and wait till I got close to the next terminal to run to it and start it up too. This is my plan. With the objectives this close to each other, I can essentially run one giant loop between them. Do one step on a terminal, move before I die, hit up the next one, and repeat. As long as I keep moving like this and don't lose my momentum, the bug should follow behind, giving me small slivers of time to do the terminal steps without being swarmed. At least that was the plan. It all went Titanic on me and imploded the second this stalker turned the corner. I did pretty quick. No! The absence of these guys is one of the main reasons I could actually complete the mission last match. Only thing worse than being in a match with stalkers might be being locked in a room barefoot with Dan Schneider. I guess being a child locked in a room barefoot with Dan Schneider. That might be worse. Respawned and tried to get in stealth. Honestly looked like it was working, but then the bugs just kind of locked in all at the same time and I had to book it. Back at the first objective, I was able to do the next step, but not escape. No backpack meant I would be dying a lot quicker, so I want to get that back as soon as possible. Alive again, like the nail hole man on the third day, I stealthed to the second objective. Was able to get really close to the terminal and threw down a smoke and an EMS before breaking my neck with this headfirst dive. Honestly, this worked in my favor though. Because of that failed dive, I healed myself, and I was hit with some acid right after. But because the healing effect was active, it didn't kill me and I was able to do the next step. Cut to the next objective and past where I first died, so I grabbed my shield and got into stealth as fast as I could. I knew the stalkers were nearby, I just didn't know where, and I didn't want them to find me first. Thank God I did this too, because back at the first objective, a Bile Titan spawned. It was walking towards me like the whole patrol does. It doesn't know where I am, but it's pathing right towards me. Thought I was done for and I wouldn't be able to shimmy out of the way in time, but I barely made it. I kept stealthing to the terminal until I accidentally hit shift. This situation's not that bad.
The misinput.
Oh no. See, stealth in this game is very dependent on your stance, with prone being the most hidden and sprinting being the most obvious. So by hitting shift and sprinting for that split second, I just alerted every enemy nearby. And look who's the first to come see me. Great, it's the stalkers. Threw down all the stratagems I had to make a getaway and had just enough time after stunning some bugs to do the last step on the terminal and grab the SSD. I just need to finish the second one and bring the SSD to the main objective. Ran as fast as I could, and once I was far enough away from the compound, I dropped the SSD with the purpose of coming back here to pick it up once I'm done the next sub-objective. Kept looking back at the stalkers following me in the distance and forgot to look in front of me, so I walked right into one. The stalker lair must be very close to the second objective, so the longer I spend in this area, the more will spawn. I can't get rid of them, so their numbers are just going to steadily increase to an absurd amount, meaning I need to get this objective done as fast as possible, or else soon it's going to be impossible because of the amount of stalkers nearby. With my cover blown, I ran to the next objective. I almost got killed by this one stalker on the way there and had to use my last heal to get away. Threw down as many smokes as I could so I could try to do a step on the terminal before I got killed, but I could barely do anything before being tossed like a sack of potatoes or a baby from a car crash whose child seat was not properly strapped in. Was that a good analogy or was that too much? Got double tapped, had a broken arm and leg reducing movement and less than 10% health left, but the stalkers fell back. It's like they're playing with their food. Me. Had no choice but to throw a resupply near me for the extra heals, and was most likely going to die very soon, so throwing it next to the terminal meant at least it will be near the objective for my next few lives. With my EMS cooldown done, I did what I had to do for a chance of survival and threw it down right as the resupply came in. My backpack came in clutch and saved me from being cut to pieces, grabbed my heals, and was able to get back to full health with the bug stunned by the terminal. I was going to try to run away and regroup with all the stalkers stunned, but another must have spawned because it was waiting for me up the hill. I had to double back to the terminal, I had no other choice, and even with a bug breach happening right next to it, I decided to try to get a step done. I was going to be killed by the stalkers in a minute anyways, I might as well try to get something done before this life is wasted. I started calibrating the voltage, but I pre'd and exited the terminal early because I thought I had gotten it. I tried to get it again before it was too late, but I fumbled. I was mad.
Oh, man.
Spawned just outside of the bug breach, and oh, looky, another Bile Titan. Remember, this isn't Suicide anymore, this is Helldiver, and the main difference is going to be a lot more Bile Titans. I need to run a big loop here and get back to the objective, but outrunning the stalkers was impossible. Everything else I could lead away, but they are fast enough to cut me off or keep pace, and as I came around this bend, I got cut off by a bunch of them. Used my EMS strike and barely made it out alive, got to the terminal and did it without blowing my load early this time. Grabbed my backpack and some more heals before waiting by the transformer. All I have to do now is wait out for the generator to calibrate and then hit the switch on the transformer. I thought I could throw all my smokes out and hide from the enemies for the 10 seconds I needed, but the stalkers seemed to be able to see right through the smoke and started closing in on me real fast. I tried juking them out and even broke one of the stalkers' ankles, but I was still killed before I could hit the switch. Dead again, and now I'm on my last life. With 6 stalkers chasing me at this point, I was sure I was going to die before I can get to the safety net in my backpack. But thankfully one of the stalkers sent me flying in the right direction.
Fucking Jesus, man! And look, they're already gonna catch up.
Shout out to that asshole, because without that boost, I might have lost the match. With just enough distance in between them, I was able to get my backpack and hit the switch, finishing the second sub-objective. Before booking it to the main objective across the map, I need to grab the SSD I dropped earlier, so I marked it on the map, and while doing that, the stalkers caught up to me. I need to get away from them, and with my EMS strike up again, I chose to throw it a bit in front of me so I can run into the stunned field, luring all the stalkers into a slowed state, then dive out of the field and grab the SSD before the effect wore off. I had a massive stroke of luck again because turns out there was a charger right where I threw the stun. Stopped it in its tracks along with the majority of the stalkers. This was perfect and it gave me a small but extremely valuable lead on the bugs, and I should be able to outrun them. I grabbed the SSD and ran to what I thought was a passageway through the cliffs.
That's a fucking corner! I thought there was a little tunnel. Oh no, that's gonna fuck me. That's gonna lose my distance. No!
Yeah, so I had to run back and lost all the ground I just made. But for whatever reason, the stalkers kind of backed off. I don't know why, but hell yeah. After running a bit and turning a corner, I was going to stop for a second to call down a resupply when I saw another Titan just roaming around. This is probably one of the Titans from earlier, seeming as they're not going to just walk away and despawn. It didn't see me though, and staying crouched let me get by while hidden. I got to the main objective and stealthed as much as I could to the SSD slot. Put it in as I got spotted, but I was also able to turn on the terminal, so not a total loss. Cut from the platform and threw down a sentry at the same time. Got a little freaked out because the sky turned red for a second. I still don't know why that happened, but the sentry worked and I was able to get back to the terminal after doing a loop. Unfortunately, I missed the dive and landed right in front of another bug, but I recovered and got a step done before cutting. Now, here I realized I hadn't called down that resupply I meant to when I saw the Titan a few minutes ago, so I had no heals and chose to throw it now. What I did was really stupid though, because I threw it right where I had led the bugs to last time I looped around. The right move would have been to throw it in an opposite direction and run there, but I had no choice now, and I needed to run right into the fire to get my heals. Barely got them without dying and started running away, but there were so many bugs here, and another breach just got called in. Actually, it got called in right underneath me. Had nowhere else to go, so I thought I could cut around this rock, but I should have looked before committing to the turn. I ran right into a gaping hole. Didn't know your mother was on this map. I tried to parkour out, but the game wouldn't let me, and after slowly failing to sprint up the cliff face, I fell into the water and drowned. Respawned and out of lives now, I needed to wait another 2 minutes before I could die again. My backpack was gone, so I called in a new one and headed back to the objective. I crouched up to the satellite dish that I had to realign. Unfortunately, there was a singular bug that stayed behind instead of chasing me like the rest did. I tried throwing an EMS strike to stun it, but it completely missed its mark, meaning I had to do this while being attacked by the bug. The shield meant I could take a couple hits before I would need to back off. Doing this without the ability to respawn was really stupid though, and I almost lost the game here because of it. Thankfully, my reinforcement cooldown ended right as I started to move the dish again. I should have just waited for that in the first place before attempting this at all. After 2 more tries of this, I got it aligned and went to the next step of the terminal. I almost finished the objective here, but a bug breach got called in before the upload was complete. Learned my lesson from my last life and threw the resupply in a different direction so I wouldn't have to run through a horde again. Looped around, threw down another sentry, and I got to the terminal. Entered the last code, and I finished the objective. Ran out of the area by passing by the sentry I threw to lure the enemies off of me, and I was able to get back into stealth. Now I just needed to hide for 10 minutes to start the auto extraction. It was going good until that Biotitan came back. This time I wasn't able to get out of the way in time, and it did see me. So no more stealth, I had to run. It was just the Biotitan, and the Biotitan by itself isn't the hardest to avoid, but I was really screwed here because it could easily force me to run into another group of bugs. Threw an EMS so it would get stunned, but I hit my Windows key when I got up to run and almost lost it all. It didn't matter anyways because it seemed to walk right through my EMS and just keep coming. I was about to be forced out of this clear area and stumble upon a horde of bugs. I just knew it, but then, well, just watch.
This is bad, 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 this is not what I want, this is not what I want. I'm debating letting him kill me. Thank you. Don't believe, but that's a split second.
That was a hell bomb. Watching back the footage, it's hard to tell where the bomb was exactly, especially because the footage I captured looks like shit, but my best guess is that it was nestled into this environmental charger corpse. It's not uncommon to find a hell bomb in one. When the Biotitan walked past the bomb, it must have accidentally stepped on it, triggering it. For the 3rd time this run, I had insane luck. Like I said before, a kill like that won't count as a fail, although I'm pretty sure the game will count that as me killing the Titan. Now that hell bomb was great because it wiped out one of the Titans, but it wasn't all great because now all the bugs have converged on my position investigating the noise. Threw down some stratagems hoping to distract the bugs enough for a getaway, but I was completely surrounded and died fairly quick. It's alright though, I respawned and I only got 6:30 left on the clock. It did spawn me next to another Titan though, so my fight or flight response triggered in the worst possible way and I just started singing a song while booking it.
I don't like that you spawned me next to it. I don't like that you did that, game. I don't like that you did that to me. It's not fun, I don't like it. Hey, don't like that you did that to me, game. It is pretty rude. Don't like that that happened to me, because now I'm screwed.
After that beautiful performance, I used a bunch of smokes and was able to somehow make it back into stealth. I had 5 minutes left before the auto extraction would start and it was still backpackless, meaning I would need to throw another one down soon, most likely ruining my cover. Got more reinforcements and after a minute or so crawling, my backpack was cooled down. I didn't want to waste any time getting it, so I threw it at the nearest clearing and threw down a resupply close by to hopefully distract the bugs. Unfortunately, the backpack landed way earlier than the resupply, and some bugs had already gotten too close, so I needed to throw smoke, grab it, and run before I got swarmed again. Another bug breach started, so I threw a sentry to distract the forthcoming horde and got back into stealth with just a minute 30 left on the clock. I did get away from the horde that just spawned, yeah, but they're still in the area and close to where the shuttle is going to land. And probably the worst part, on Helldiver, basically every bug breach will spawn a Biotitan, so it's safe to assume there's a new one nearby. Thankfully, I was able to stay in stealth until the game timer ran out and the auto extraction started. The destroyer left orbit with all my stratagems, but I had 2 heals left, my backpack, and some grenades on me, so it wasn't all bad. I just had to stay hidden for another 2 minutes. Found what I thought was a pile of red leaves, but turns out it was just charred bodies, which is weird because the bugs wouldn't pile up bodies like this. Like, this is a mass grave, but like only humans here are part of the military. So did the Super Earth Armed Forces mass kill civilians or something? No way, that's not possible. Why would they do? Sorry about that, guys. That Chris was defective and has since been humanely replaced. I love democracy and Super Earth. Back to the game. Had a minute left, saw the Titan in the distance, which is scary because it can instant kill me if it gets to me, but I'm completely in stealth, so it should be fine, right? Well, wrong. When I dropped off this ledge, I changed stance, and the second I did, you can hear the bugs alert the others because they spotted me. Even though none of them are able to even see me right now, I was still caught. I guess they're on extra high alert with the extraction happening, so they were able to see me through the wall. I had to just run. I had to. I couldn't risk letting any of them get close to me, especially without stratagems. This might have worked in my favor, actually. The bugs being aggroed moved them off the extraction zone, and walking here let them catch up a bit while moving them even further from the zone. With 15 seconds left, I started running again, making a big loop so the shuttle would land before I got there, and when I did get there, all the bugs are away from the extraction shuttle, letting me have a clean getaway, beating the challenge on my first try. It felt good. This made me happier than having one of those no white poos. Although Super Earth didn't think it was so great. I can't believe I finished a full match on Helldiver without shooting or doing any damage on my first try. This was crazy. Almost as crazy as my endgame stats, which had me very confused. The 6 kills, I'm assuming, came from the hell bomb that went off, plus maybe a few other accidental bug deaths here and there. But the shots fired being 133 must be the sentry, right? I guess shots hit would be the times the sentry hit a bug right on its dome with its stunning mortar? I don't know. But for those who think I cheated, even beating the game with just 6 kills is crazy, so, you know, shut up. Obviously, I didn't cheat anyways because I stream these live. You can check my VOD if it's still up at twitch.tv/crispy645, and you might as well follow me while you're there too, I guess, you know? This challenge was lots of fun, so this video does well, and well for my standards is like 500 views plus. I'll do the same thing again, but with the robots instead of the bugs, which is going to be much harder. I hate the robots. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, tell my father how proud he should be of me in the comments, but please address him as Crispy645's beautiful balding seed bearer. He only responds to that. I do not know why, but yeah. Thanks again for watching. Peace out, guys. I'll see you in the next one.
Bye, man, and bye, YouTube.